Mr Dutton, the factory inside was a bit of a microcosm of modern multicultural Australia. Yeah. We saw in the debate last night a couple of the questions were framed in a way that was critical of your cuts to the migration intake. Are you concerned that talking of cutting migration might hurt you in these Western Sydney multicultural seats that you need to win?
Andrew, I actually think the opposite's the case. When I speak to young migrant families who have teenage kids now, they've been here for a few years, they're desperately worried about whether their kids can find a house. And they're worried in their own circumstances, being locked out of housing. And under Mr Albanese, rents have gone up by 18%. Young Australians, it doesn't matter whether you come from a young Indian family or a young Chinese family or you've been here for generations, you're, as grandparents, as parents, you're worried desperately under Labor because they've created a housing crisis. That's what Australians are feeling. And our decision to cut the migration program by 25% is all about getting young Aussies into homes. Mr Albanese has a plan to lock Australians out of homes. I'm going to be the Prime Minister for our country who can see young Australians achieving that dream again. I want young Australians to be able to own their own home. I want rents to be affordable. But under Mr Albanese and Mr Bant, it is going to be a nightmare for housing. We've got a plan to bring construction costs down and a $5 billion plan to build 500,000 new homes. And under our migration cuts, we create 40,000 homes. They become available for Australians in the first year, and over 5 years we'll create about 100,000 additional homes, and I think that's really powerful.
Mr. Dutton, your migration cuts...
Just hear and we'll come across.
Sorry to hear about your dad. How's he doing? And were there moments during the Sky News debate that you were thinking of him?
Well, look, I spoke to Dad this morning, and thank you for the question and asking about him. He's doing well. He's stoic. He's a tough bugger. He's worked hard all of his life, and he's been an amazing dad. So, yeah, of course you think about him, but he's fine. He's doing well. Thank you.
On US relations, you've said that Coalition will keep continuity in Washington with Kevin Rudd. Given the market turmoil, how relations are going, would you reconsider that position, and how is your approach different from Labor?
Look, I think what Australians are worried about at the moment is who is better to manage our economy and bring down the cost of living, who can deal with the economic headwinds. If we have a recession in the United States, if there is a global recession, if there's a broader war in Europe, a Labor Greens government with a weak and incompetent Prime Minister is not going to be able to deal with that. I have served as the Defence Minister, as the Home Affairs Minister, as Health Minister. I've worked for 4 Prime Ministers. I've watched closely 7 Prime Ministers in action. I was around the Cabinet table with my colleagues when we dealt with COVID, and we made decisions which brought Australians economically through COVID in a much better shape than many other countries around the world. I have the experience, and my team has the experience, to deal with whatever comes at our country. The Prime Minister has demonstrated that he's always weak, always late to the game, and the lies just roll off his tongue. And I think, as the Prime Minister points out, well, we have the contacts and we have the ability. We make sure that we work on relationships. We were able to negotiate with the Biden administration the AUKUS agreement, which has underpinned our national security for 100 years. And we can deal with any administration in the United States. And I believe very strongly that only a coalition government can deal with the economic headwinds, the uncertainty, the prospect of a global recession. Labor has demonstrated all they do is tax and spend. This is the biggest spending government in 40 years, the biggest spending government since Gough Whitlam. And it's actually even worse than the Whitlam government. And Australians know it. When the Prime Minister's out there saying, oh, look, you know, you've never had it better off, be grateful for what's happened over the last 3 years, he's not able to talk about his track record, because over the last 3 years, it's been a disaster for many families. And I want to make sure that we can help get our country back on track, help manage the cost of living crisis that Labor's created. And our gas plan is about getting Australian gas for Australians. That will bring the price down if we bring more supply, between 50 and 100 petajoules into the market. And the Prime Minister is not promising to fix any problem. All he's doing is got a $150 part-time rebate in place, but people know that their power prices have gone up by $1,300. And I've dealt with that.